You're listening to Inside Real Estate, your source for all things mortgage and real estate related. The show that brings you all the hottest topics and insights directly from those who know it most. Now sit back and enjoy the show.
You guys see how much thinner Brad looks in that picture, that initial picture? What's up, everyone? Paul Pasalakis, Brad Weisgerber, Salvatore Cusmano. We are Inside Real Estate. Today, it is just us. We haven't done an episode, just us talking. We've had a really good run with a lot of great guests and a lot of good people listening. This episode, probably nothing to listen to, so that's good. So you guys can talk about anything. How are you guys?
Good. Apparently fat, asshole.
Yeah, you gained some weight since that last picture. That was like a couple of years ago. So thank you everyone for it. Yeah, whoever's talking in the background, they're loud as fuck. But anyways, today we're going to talk a little bit about the market, some interesting things. Home prices actually went up a little bit, which is kind of counterintuitive, like what people thought would be happening. I kind of want to talk about to Sal really what he's seeing from the borrower side, like what kind of borrowers you're seeing from a purchase standpoint, from a refinance, who's kind of in the market right now that you're coming across. And Brad, I kind of wanted to talk to you today about kind of the health of or the process by which people are closing mortgages, and if that, Well, either that or you can just not talk like you don't every other episode. That'd be good.
I thought you were talking about health, and I was like, that's probably not the best idea.
Your health, your actual health? No, we're not talking about your actual. No, dude. So, yeah, man. So everybody that's listening, obviously, go to IRE Podcast, go to your Spotify or whatever, subscribe, because that's where we are. That's where we live. So, guys, how are you this morning? Everything good? You guys good? Sal looks look like he's ready for the day. Brad looks like he just got off a bender.
Even though
it's probably the opposite. Probably the opposite completely. Yeah. So it's been an interesting time. It's been a really interesting time. We've been kind of running real fast, trying to really as a company be ahead of this whole COVID thing and try to make sure that we're doing things properly as a company to kind of save the reputation too in our business and making sure that we're healthy. And I think we've done a pretty good job so far. But one thing that's interesting, and Natalia, if you want to bring up that graphic, this was really interesting when I saw it. So home prices, they still moved up in March, which is really interesting. If you look at this graph, right? I mean, you look back all the way to we see the dip, obviously, in 2008. We just had this big crisis right now. We're not seeing that same kind of dip. And I'm wondering, Sal, if you think this is pent-up demand from people in the past that, were needing to move, that haven't been able to move. Supply is really low, especially in our area. There's not a lot of people selling their houses. A lot of people putting money back into their houses. Until you can take that down now. It's an interesting dynamic. It's like every crisis is different, right? Like 2008 and today, totally different crises. A lot of people try to compare the two, but they're not the same. Would you guys agree with that?
They're totally different.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is, there's still a lot of people who are employed and doing okay. I mean, yes, unemployment's at its highest it's ever been, right? But people understand that this crisis was like a health crisis, something that wasn't fundamentally brought on by bad loans or a fragile real estate market or something like that, right? And people have to live and move, and ultimately there's still, which it's been a problem, there's not a lot of homes for sale. So I think it's just simple supply and demand. I mean, if there was X amount of gold toilets available and there was a higher demand than that, people would want to buy gold toilets. There's just always
simple economics, right? Simple economics, right?
I mean, that's it.
Yeah, it's interesting.
There's more buyers than there are sellers. And that doesn't matter if there's one seller and 3 or 2 buyers, or if there's 100,000 sellers and there's 150,000 buyers.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's supply and demand, right?
I mean, the home prices in 2008 took a hit because that crisis was specifically due to the housing market, right? Everything was overvalued.
It wasn't just the housing market. The housing market was imploded for sure.
Yeah, it was a bad situation, right? Houses were overpriced. People had bad loans. People were defaulting left and right. It was directly tied to the housing market, where this is a health crisis, and people want to get back to normal lives. They want to buy their new house. They want to move out of their house. They want to go back to work. They want to go out to the campground. So they're totally different situations, and housing prices aren't going to take a hit because of it at all, in my opinion. I think we're going to still see a pretty hot
at all, like zero hit. Like there won't be. You're saying at all?
I don't think so. I think housing prices are going to stay the same, if not slowly increase a little bit over the summer.
I mean, the pandemic affected everyone, right? It affected probably almost everyone's income to a degree. It's probably some positively, right? But ultimately, it didn't affect enough people to somehow create more sellers and buyers,
right?
You know, and again, that's just, if you have more qualified buyers to buy homes than you do homes for sale, it's going to stay at a very minimum, probably at least level. You know, you're still going to have the ebbs and flows of winter and summer and whatnot, like in states like this. But I think that, you know, a lot of it's population too. I mean, the population has just absolutely boomed. Like Royal Oak was built in like the 40s, right? Like my home was built.
I mean, I'm sure it was around before that, but yeah.
Like the large residential parts, you know, probably 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever.
The houses that were built are mostly built in the 40s.
The neighborhoods that were plotted and platted. Like there's only so much space available, and there's more people there's a lot less people coming into their home buying time of their life in the 40s and 50s than there was now. Each of those people had 6 or 7 kids. And now
you're talking about the baby boom. You're talking about the baby boomers.
Yeah. And then that generation bought their home, and now we're coming from them, right? And there's like maybe 2 or 3 of us per each of those, kids. So, I mean, short of building and expanding, I mean, things are starting to boom up in like Oxford, Lapeer, like the fringe areas that were like farm before,
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that. Yeah, because let's be honest, I think there was a big push for walkability downtown areas like Royal Oak, where we work. For people out there that don't know the area, it's a very walkable downtown type area. Pretty developed. Lots of restaurants, lots of bars, residential area right around it. A lot of rental properties in that area. A lot of young professionals want to live in that area. A lot of buildings have been built, big tall office buildings. And do you guys feel like potentially people now want to go? I mean, Royal Oak's okay. You can get land and it's not like a New York, right? You can get houses, but do you guys believe that there's now going to be more of a shift to the suburbs, like downtown Detroit? A lot of young people live in downtown Detroit, and now all of a sudden, they're on top of each other. Is there now going to be a difference? Do you see the suburbs kind of coming back a little bit?
I mean, to me, I always like the suburbs anyway. I like having land. So but
it's not about what you like, Brad.
Well, yeah.
You're an oddball. You think of a normal person.
Well, people aren't going to want to be on top of each other anymore. They're not going to be like rubbing elbows, at least.
Well, I think that's a good point, right? Like people might want to be a little more space from others. I mean,
more land, right?
At what point can you become like such a hypochondriac that you're like, my neighbor lives, their house is 15 feet away from mine. I don't want to get COVID. But
but if you lived in a condo right now, bro,
prices, so like think of the prices of buying close to downtown Royal Oak and if you're at a point you're like, well, shit, I can buy a 1945 bungalow for $350,000, or I can move to Macomb and build a brand new house, or out to like Commerce or whatever, right? So it's like, at a point, it's just a sensibility thing, Hey, if there's a $50,000 premium to live in Royal Oak for a similar house, or maybe even $75,000, okay. But when it's $150,000, it's like, at a point, what are you paying for? And so there are a lot of people who still, no matter what, will pay for that. I mean,
there will be. Yeah. I actually think the millennial population, which is a big population of people buying houses right now, they're not really as creeped out by this whole COVID thing. They're the ones going to the bars. Like they have less fucks to give about the COVID thing, right? But I do believe.
I don't know,
you
man.
agree with that?
Millennials are now like getting into their like kid having age. I think that no, everyone's saying millennials over the past 5-6 years, they're all like growing up. They're having kids. They're all opinionated. A lot of people are still very scared, right? Millennials are. There's a lot of liberal millennials and whatnot, right? So like now it's the next generation. Like all the kids, like when I graduated college, I was like, look at these, shitheads coming in. Those are the kids who appear, that we're going to talk down to because, they don't give a fuck as much, right? But ultimately,
every generation talks shit about the generation coming up behind them,
right?
Every
right.
single one of them, right?
But yeah, I think it's not necessarily as much millennials as it is, the younger generation there, But I think when you're young, you're kind of like, what's going to hurt me? I mean,
you're invincible, dude, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'll give you my opinion on something. I think the condo market's going to take a hit, personally. I don't think as many people are going to want to be in condos.
Oh,
not. What did you? The condom? You thought I said condom?
What you said. I was like the condom
booming market. I heard it too. But yeah, I mean, I think that's possible. But I mean, why though? Why do you really? Because they don't want to be.
Because I've heard multiple people say. Okay, here's why I'll tell you. I think people that are living in condos right now, during the quarantine, right during the quarantine time, are I've heard it from multiple people like, I got to get out of this condo, dude. I just had a baby. There's nowhere to go. I don't have anywhere to I'm on top of other people. I might be breathing other people's air because we're circulating the same air. Like, imagine if you lived in that apartment that you used to live at. Beautiful apartment, right? Solid veranda, nice deck outside. But imagine if you just were living there and weren't able to and had a kid and you couldn't go outside and you didn't have a yard, right?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, if I had a kid to begin with,
What's that?
I mean, if I had a kid in that apartment or condo or whatever to begin with, aside from COVID, I'd want to move. I mean, a condo, at least here, it's not like we live in New York City where everything's walkable, everything's doable by walking. You kind of have to buy like that. I mean, I don't know if the condo market will take a hit because, I mean, condos are usually meant for older people or younger people before they end up, or people.
That's a good point.
Right?
I don't think if you're an older person, would you move into a condo on top of each other? Would you go buy a house? You know what I'm saying? Like, if you were going to retire now, would you retire in a condo complex? Right? You know what I mean? Would you feel safe being in a high-rise condo?
Buy detached condos anyways, though. They buy little detached condos down in Florida or whatever. Just because, I mean, they want a first floor plan or, I just don't think I don't think it's going to really.
You think it's a non-issue? You think it's a non-issue? You think condos aren't going to depreciate? Yeah. Are you seeing an appetite from a pre-approval or purchase standpoint for condos right now?
I mean, not as much difference.
Any different?
The ultimate thing is just supply and demand. Like how many condos are there for sale, right? And how many people want to buy? And what's Fannie Mae going to do about condo rules? I mean, condos are always harder to buy. There's always more that goes into it. But no, I mean, I've got people who wanted to buy condos before and they still want to buy them. It's just they got to find them and not get outbid. So
yeah,
I never thought about thinking about not having a yard, right, during all this, like going outside and playing in the yard, right? But then
people who have condos walk around. Yeah, they go to the park.
People who have condos don't really give a shit. They like that they don't have a yard. That's why they go to buy a condo, right? Like,
no, they walk to the park or they go for a stroll.
If you buy a condo, you're not going to have a yard, and you are okay with that.
Well, that's the reason that younger people and older people buy them because it's less maintenance.
Yeah,
you pay for it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I think it's something to keep an eye on. I just think that I personally think the condo market is going to take a little bit of a hit. There'll be more for sale, more people moving out. There'll be more of a supply in the condo market. So we might see it just be fine because of the lack of demand, like you said, Sal. They might be just like, okay, I'm going to take this condo, right? You have a very good point with the lack of demand. This demand issue, because here's the thing also, if like me, right? I was talking about buying a house and moving and like, oh, this house isn't, it doesn't have this, it doesn't have that. And during this whole period of COVID, I actually was like, wait a minute, I kind of like my house. I actually started investing in it. I did landscaping. I cleaned it up. and now I'm really I'm investing back into my house. So there's like, in my opinion, like there's gonna be a lot of sweat equity that gets added to the homes right now because of people that aren't moving. And I think those people that are deciding to stay are going to be there a while. I don't think, we used to say back in the day, every 5 to 6 years, someone would make a change and move out of their house. I don't think that's the same anymore. I think people are going to buy the houses that are going to stay in for a while. And so we're not going to see this turnover like we used to. Like in 96 and 97, you used to see people live in a house for 1 or 2 years, flip it and buy another house because they're making so much in profit, right? That isn't really happening as much.
Yeah, honestly though, dude, like people are easy and quick to forget. If
that is true. 100%.
If everything changes, well, let's just say COVID goes under the covers or disappears or whatever by next spring, no one will give a fuck. No one will give a fuck. It'll
be all back to normal. Wait, so are you saying go all back to normal? I think we're changed forever, personally. I think you also just like you said, people forget fast, but people get reprogrammed even faster. Look how fast we got reprogrammed as a society.
Well, listen.
As a society, we got reprogrammed.
But I feel like this past weekend in particular, like just being around other people, it was like whatever. People are hugging each other, shaking hands. It was fine. Tons of people like got crowded on a little boat. Okay. So of course, like I'm not like saying that's good or bad, but ultimately I think, hey, and mind you, when booze is involved, you don't really give a fuck either. But like, I would say that like, people are wanting to get, back to, it's just human nature, dude. You can't reprogram the whole human species on the way they interact with each other over one little thing. Yes, there'll be little changes, but I think things will revert back to normal faster than everyone's thinking. And I think there'll be some differences. I think that people won't change as much as, policies at companies and things like that. Like I know like some of these super conservative companies like Bank of America, for example, they're like, no one's going back to work till like the end of this year. Like
August. Yeah. It was October. Yeah. There's a lot of
companies.
Yeah,
they don't want to be holding the bag.
I don't think the work from home culture goes away. I don't think the work from home culture goes away. I think we start seeing more and more of that. And I do think in homes today, you're going to see a lot of homes because one thing that's not coming back, in my opinion, at the same rate is gyms and office. People are going to be working from home more than they used to. So those two things in houses now is surprise. Like I think that's a major change. I think houses today that want to sell, people are going to be looking for office space and they're going to be looking for home gyms, right? Where can I put my Peloton? Yeah. Where can I put my bench?
Well, I think, people learned that there's other ways to do things, but just like the condo, it's a bitch to have a home gym, and you got to buy all that stuff. I'd rather just rent it. That concept doesn't go away, I'd rather rent the gym equipment and have everything at my disposal for $12 a month at Planet Fitness, but
but like guys like my brother-in-law who lives in the gym, like every day is in the gym, lives in it, like 7% body fat, right?
That's probably about,
he's like, I'm not
10% of people who work out, like
I'm just saying, bro, all that sweat and everything like in that area. Yeah. It's like saying to me, that's like saying, oh, AIDS is out here, but fuck it, I'm not going to wear a condom when I fuck.
Well, I think that that's odd, but but
that's the same thing.
Oh, here's the thing, right? Like I would say, I guess I rephrase that 10% of people work out. It's probably a lot of people who work out, but it's probably like, I bet there's like 30 to 40% of people who are subscribed to a gym that never go, So it's probably going to shake the gym up.
That is true. But what I'll tell you is I'm not going back to the gym anytime soon, but I will tell you this, to your point, you haven't gone to the gym since you were fucking 10, man. Sal, I do agree with you about one thing, though. I do agree that the human nature of the rebound is interesting because I find myself, I was pretty conservative, right? I got family. Brad, you're pretty conservative, stayed at home. But I even found myself, I had friends over. I had a couple over this weekend at my house for the first time, really to have anybody other than one guy that I know very well. It was like family. And I gave him a hug and we were drinking and we were normal and like it felt right. And I was like, I thought to myself, like, I wouldn't have done that 2 months ago. I was like, no way I'm going around people. I'm not going anywhere. Now I go shopping.
Did, right? But now it's like, hey, at a point, and mind you, I mean, it's hard to say. It's hard to say whether there's a true threat or not. I mean, obviously there's a threat out there to people, but like the chances of you being exposed and already, in an environment where that exists is probably pretty high. I mean, if all these people caught it and they're in the same county and going to the same businesses and doing everything that you've been doing, and you have family and friends who've gotten it, like, chances are you probably were exposed to it too. I mean, the guy, it's just like, okay, at what point am I going to like just say, come at me, come.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's just kind of where people are at. Like, people are going absolutely nuts too, right? So I think it's just like,
I think there is. I mean, you're looking at 3 people. Yeah, but you're looking at 3 people on the screen right now, and all of us are having a very unique response to this thing, right? And I don't think it's fair. I'm sick of people judging other people one way or the other. It's like, dude, let you do you, I'll do me, and I can't judge you because nobody really fucking knows. Nobody knows what this thing.
You can't go out there and say,
you can't.
It doesn't exist.
You're wrong or you're right.
It's like
it's really individual style. You know what I mean? It's really individual.
Hey, if you and your buddies want to go ride dirt bikes for something like that, right? Like, okay, is that dangerous? Can be, yeah, probably, right? But if I don't want to ride a dirt bike, I won't ride one. I mean, obviously,
it's not anymore. Hey, by the way, it's not any more dangerous than riding the actual dirt bike. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, there are risks in everything that we do. Everybody just needs to like tailor the risk level to themselves. Really, you know what I mean? I can't tell you. I can't tell Brad F you for not coming to the office today because he has a different level of thing, right?
People just have to be
hard to. It's also kind of hard to say you tailor your risk level to yourself, because I want to go back to the office, right? But like, I don't know what, say, Sal did this weekend, right? How many people did he go talk to and potentially get exposed? And now he's at the office with me, right?
Right, but but there's a lot of people who are to a degree.
What's that, Sal?
I think there's people who are not like I don't think they're trying to do it on, like, they're not purposeful hypocrites, right? But there's a lot of people going and doing things where it's like, hey, bro, like, it probably ain't safe. Like, oh, I'm gonna walk.
There's hypocrisy everywhere.
I'm gonna go walk into the grocery store and touch a million things, and when I put this hand sanitizer on and take off this, paper bag mask that I'm wearing, then I'm exposed to the world. And I get it, but like, and the tough part is we live in a society where you really can't not come in contact with other things, to a degree. So it's like, I don't know. Ultimately, I think that.
But my point is, we don't know anything, so I can't be mad at that dude because he doesn't want to do something, right? And because I want to do something different, that's my own tolerance.
No,
you know what I'm saying? So,
I'm not. But at the same time,
I will tell you though.
You can't, like, things just get a little nuts when you encroach on someone else, though. Right?
People's beliefs. Yeah, don't do that.
Don't let them do that, like, not wear a mask and go up close to someone and be like, it's fake.
Yeah. Who the fuck are you to know that, right? I'm blown away by the market response to the in real estate. Doors opened up and we got busy immediately. People were buying, and there was pent up demand, and I don't see that going away. And I'm really impressed with the resiliency of our housing market, even through all this, even having 3%
unemployment. Look at the stock market, bro.
I think the stock market is whacked. I think it's whacked out.
That's.
I think the stock market is whacked out, Sal.
Yeah, I get it, but I mean, you think one thing and someone thinks another, just like our previous conversation, right? So
yeah.
I mean,
opinions are like assholes. We all have them.
Yeah, and even, I mean, to a degree, I mean, think of what the stock market is to begin with, right? I mean, it's just essentially consumer confidence in companies, right? So, like, to a degree. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think everyone's invested. You know, you got everyone like sending screenshots of stocks. It's so funny too. It's like, hey man, if you actually worked, as long as you looked at your little screen, you probably make more money. You know, people are dumping in $3-4 grand and expecting to get rich. So what do you know?
In the stock market?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's
you know,
a lot of people putting a lot of money and making it big, right? But like, there's a lot of people who are just like, yeah, you know, all of a sudden I'm, what's that guy's name? Greco or
Greco? That's a Cretan. It's not Greco.
No.
Whatever. Are you thinking about Buffett?
No. Well, sure. You know, a movie. But
yeah,
it's pretty funny.
Look at that.
But,
look at this. Look at it. Dow set to soar 400 points after getting another caffeine jolt May 27th. Good job on that. Yeah. I mean, that's really happening, dude. The market's going nuts, right?
But
what's
become is data, right? And how people react to that. I think the market's good because everyone expects this to go away, right? So I think that's going to be the big thing.
You think that's the expectation? So everybody's kind of there waiting for it to go away.
If it goes away or isn't, you know, is found to be maybe different than what everyone thought, yeah, I think that the stock market's going to boom, and so will jobs, right?
I think everyone's ready for it to go away. I think everyone's ready to get back to normal life. But I think something interesting. Yeah, look at that's crazy.
Look at that. Hold on. This is human nature, by the way.
Yeah.
Like here, look at that, right? Look at that beach right there. And people don't give a fuck anymore. There's a huge population of people that have zero fucks to give. They're like, I'm going out because they want to be around other people, no matter how dangerous it is. Just like AIDS, right? People said if you have sex, you're gonna die of AIDS. Well, people still had sex, right? Like, then you will die, right?
Yeah.
So just think about that. Like,
I think
what
our stay-at-home order got extended 2 more weeks, right? It was supposed to be over this weekend. I think there was a reason behind that. It's because the normal the dwelling stage of the virus is a week or 2, right? 10 days. So I think they extended it 2 more weeks because they knew people were going to go out and do shit like that over the holiday weekend, and they want to see over the next 2 weeks how is that going to play out, right?
Yeah, I mean that makes pretty good sense. I will say, you know, thought like whether or not you agree or you don't or whatever, and it could be because Michigan kind of spiked early, you know. But if you look at like the reported new cases, they're really low, right? And maybe it is because everything was so strict. And then
are they low? I haven't looked at the numbers lately. Are they lower? The new cases reported?
Yeah, they have been pretty low the last week or so.
And
oh, really?
Okay. Maybe that's a sign of something. I don't know, but you know, I also think it sucks. You know, I mean, of course, people are mad, but if you look at, you know, I'm just pulling up.
Do you think it's a good time to buy a house right now? I'm just curious. Like, do you think right now is a good time to buy, sell? Like, in your opinion? I know we talk about this all the time. Like, you buy a house if you need a house.
I think it's a great time.
Right. That's what I get. It's a great time, right? It's a great time. Rates are low. Price of money is cheap.
Yeah.
But what about these I'm sorry, not idiots. What about these people that like are waiting for the crash, which we're having a crash, and they're waiting to get deals on houses and they're not getting the deals? I think there's a big population of people that believe they can get a deal if they wait long enough, but that's not happening, right?
People are expecting another crash similar to like 08, 09. It's not going to happen. Like that's never.
Listen, the people who wait to get deals on houses are already too late, right? Like if you're this like sideline, like listen, true investors know how to get deals. They know how to negotiate and probably get deals
in any market. In any market, it doesn't have to be
high, and they find, you know, they have the bird dogs go find them the deals, right? Like
right.
Sideline wannabe fucking 1 or 2 and you know investment property investors. Mm-hmm. They have just as good of a chance probably finding a deal now as when they're low. And you know what? When prices drop, there'll be a whole bunch of investors who are looking to go and they'll get into bidding wars on these houses. You know, I mean,
right?
Listen,
yes.
Yeah, it's, you know, I mean, hey, more power to the piker, right? Who, you know, make small, like there's always something to be said about people who talk a lot and do a lot. Like those are like the tire kickers, you know?
Yeah.
I have a lot of people I talk to are like, yeah, I think we're going to get it, you know, 5-10 grand under. I'm like, the agent's calling me saying that it's multiple offers. Well, I don't want to pay it. Well, you're not going to get a house.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Right.
You know,
we are seeing a lot of multiple offers, man. We are seeing a lot.
You know, what's funny is people look at a house and they think they know the value based upon the sales price or other comps or whatever, right? But when there's more than 2, 3, 4 people willing to pay more for the house,
that's how much it's worth.
Yeah.
Should
right? Something,
sure. Yeah, I mean, should someone be willing to come up above and beyond an appraisal and close? Yeah. Well, then it was worth it, right? That's a sold comp. Yeah. But you know, there's I mean, it's like anything. You know, I want to do this. I want to. Yeah. Well, you know, I want a Ferrari, but you got to pay what one costs. You know, I'm not going to find a deal on a Ferrari when the used car market falls out.
I want the audience to understand something. Your house, first and foremost, when you get an appraisal, that's not how much your house is worth. When you're, whatever you think your house is worth, that's not what your house is worth. Your house is worth as much as someone is willing to pay for, period. I had a buddy of mine who lives in a 10,000 square foot house. During the COVID thing, he was trying to get a business loan because he didn't know if you're going to get like these stimulus things. He goes to the banker, he gives him a list of his assets. You know what the banker says to him? He goes, you got 5 cars here. You got some really nice cars, whatever it was. I forget what he says. He does really well for himself. And he goes, how much are those worth? He's like, dude, at least 500,000 between the, you know, whatever it is, whatever the number is. He goes, can you sell any of them? He goes, no, I can't sell any of them right now. He goes, they're worthless. Nobody wants that. He goes, your house, you had a 10,000 square foot house. How much do you think it's worth? He's like, I don't know, about 5 million, 4 million, whatever it is. And he goes, and how much do you owe on it? He's like, oh, about 2.5 million, whatever it is, right? He goes, so you think you have $2.5 million in equity? He's like, yeah. He goes, can you sell your house right now? He goes, no, nobody's going to buy it right now, not in this market. And he's like, then your house is worthless. So he took that off the list. Like this was like real world shit, right? And he was like, you know, the funny thing is, he goes, you know what I do have? He goes, what? He goes, I got a room full of guns. I bet you those are worth something, right? You know what I mean? So the reality is, like,
I was talking to someone today.
Historical data shows housing market will boom after the 2020 crisis, and so will Bitcoin. What? That's awesome. That's a great thing.
Historical data on something that's never happened before. Yeah. But
you can't use historical data right now. I agree with that.
I mean, I'm sure
nothing's the same.
There's people who are way smarter than us crunching these numbers and figuring things out. But you know,
there's also
that's our made. And out there listen, well, you either keep to yourself or you put your money out on one side. Right. Of the 2 sides that are available, and you either win or you lose, you know? So place a bet or don't. But what I'm thinking is that.
What is that graph?
This is a graph for Michigan.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I mean, look, the bottom line is, in my opinion, is the housing market's fine, absolutely fine.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I think it's good. Property values are not dropping.
I was talking to someone today about the used car market, and apparently, so there's so many people, like a huge surplus of used cars, like 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, bro, think about Hertz.
2 or 3 months of no used cars being turned in, right? And used cars sitting on lots, so that's like a double.
Oh shit! Yeah.
Right? And I would bet that 95.
And Hertz going out of business. How many cars does Hertz have?
Right. They have all their
Hertz rent-a-car's gone. What?
I didn't even know that.
What, Brad?
I didn't know they went out of business.
Yeah, Hertz went out of business. Fire sale on all their cars. You can get a Corvette for $20K right now.
They don't have a Corvette.
Yeah, they do. But, you know, it's so you have all these used cars, and, you know, what's funny is, like, I feel like perpetually people trade in cars and take losses on them, you know? I would say a lot or most cars are probably financed exactly up to their actual sale value, not their trade-in value, right? A lot of people put minimum or zero down on a car. They do. And then, you know, hey, my car's worth $40,000. I owe 39, so I got $1K. Well, the dealer's going to give you 33. You're going to take that $6,000 or whatever and
roll it into the new loan.
And with lenders, with new lending laws, I'm sure loan to value ratios on cars have gone down. Maybe, right?
Well, here's the thing, Sal, too. Can I, like, just to add to that, right? I'm not using my car as much. My wife has hasn't filled up her tank once in the last like month and a half, right? So why would she get a new car when it's literally just a vehicle to get you from point A to point B now, right? For now.
Yeah, I get that
and
too, but I mean,
why would you buy a new car right now or a used car? You know what I mean? The new car market's fucked. Think about that market.
Well, they also haven't been producing cars, so
they're
hopefully
back to producing now. They're producing.
Right, but and there's huge incentives to buy a new car. So why would you buy a used car when you can maybe get a new car for the same price, right?
Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah, that's a fair question.
So dealer lots are just keep getting more and more used cars that are going to sit there, and eventually,
what are they going to do with all these used cars, bro? But no, but the used cars, then they'll be giving them away. Then
they'll
be giving them away
very cheap.
I think they should throw
because again, supply and demand, right? The supply is going to get really exorbitant, and the demand's not there, right?
Right.
Because cars aren't breaking down right now.
People are probably
not breaking
freaking
down.
out like when you hear that, but like, hey, every single person who owns a car has a used car, whether it was bought yesterday or bought 10 years ago, right? So,
I only buy used cars, by the way. I don't buy new cars really.
Hey, if you bought a new car, it's a used car the second you take it off the lot. So,
and you just lost all that equity immediately, right?
Yeah. So it doesn't really matter, I mean, we're all kind of in that together, but it's interesting because traditionally, right? You got a place to live and you got a car to drive, right? As a human, probably 200 million people in the U.S., I would assume own cars, right? So, it's pretty, and it's probably your second biggest investment that you have, right?
For sure. Yeah. Maybe you get your house.
Maybe your biggest if you rent, right? So people, the banks so freely lend on them. I mean, a lot of people just stay underwater on them forever.
Well, my brother-in-law owns dealerships, and dude, it's like no credit, no problem. Like, I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
Zero down, what's funny?
In your other car,
let me tell
you got a pay stub.
He's busy. He said he sold 20 cars last week because of pent-up demand, right? And so he sells to a demographic, like he's more of the lower level income part of the spectrum, right? But all those people just got all their stimulus checks. He goes, all these people are coming in with their stimulus checks to buy a car for the down payment. His biggest time of year is tax return season because they use their tax return money to go buy cars.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. If you have a car right now and you're not driving it that much, it's not breaking down. You don't feel like you need a new one. It's just sitting in the driveway. Whatever it is, you're not cruising grass shit in your car right now because there's not, whatever. It's just not one of the things that you do. So I'll be interested to see what happens to the car market.
If you like to drive your car, I think you do it a lot more now. Like, what are you going to do? You go on a walk or you go on a drive, right? But
I agree with my kids for rides. Yeah.
I love to drive my truck, and diesel's expensive, bro.
Well, not only that, even if you drive it, you're not going anywhere, Sal. Just driving around for a minute, coming back home. I'm just saying it's a different culture. You're not driving like all over the place all of a sudden, right?
As much.
Right.
But, again, I think that will change. I think it will change. I mean, I think
a lot.
I think that the ability for people to work at home might stay good through the end of the year, but I know we were talking about this before, but just again, after seeing everyone kind of be to a degree a little more normal this past weekend, I think people are going to want to and start going back to the office and commuting and doing everything like they used to,
When?
I don't know, probably end of the year, Christmas. It depends, obviously, what happens with the virus. We have a huge second outbreak. Okay.
Right.
Okay, maybe now it's taken a little more serious, but I feel like a lot of people don't learn by making one mistake. They got to make a couple, right? So if their hands get burnt by touching the stove a few times, well, then it's like, all right, shit, like we're not using the stove anymore, right? You got to
So that's a good point. That's if we have another outbreak, right? Say in a month or a couple weeks, are we going to have stricter restrictions? Or like, how do you roll that?
We'll just go back to. I believe there's if we have another outbreak, we're gonna see waves of shutdowns until we have a vaccine and everybody's vaccinated.
The shutdown's gonna be more strict. Like, okay, apparently what we did last time, most people didn't listen to. And
no, it'll be the same
to the extreme, right?
Well, extreme. They can't legally.
Yeah, I know. I don't know.
They're not gonna go more extreme.
Speaking of like how easily people forget. Do you guys remember last summer we had like a fucking scary like mosquito bite killing people and all events were canceled like after 7
Oh yeah, what was that called?
I can't remember what it's called.
Zika. Was it Zika?
No, it wasn't Zika. Yeah. No, it wasn't Zika.
I think it was Zika.
Whatever. It was something like that. It was something like that, right?
My wife and I were just talking about last night. Like, damn, that was last summer, man. Like, I completely forgot.
There was like cases on like the west side of Michigan. Hold on, what?
Yeah, like everything
Michigan, around. Mosquito virus.
Totally
it was like no, it's the EEE.
Oh yeah, the EEE.
Yeah, because I remember I was at a wedding on the Lake Michigan, right? And I got bit by these mosquitoes, and it was like, shit, like people were getting, like it was like right at that time, people were getting.
Well, so we got a comment on my. Hold on a second. They sell used cars in South America when they can't sell them in the States. So they move them down south, I guess. Just FYI. So yeah, go ahead. So
I hope that this, in a couple months is like the EEE is, right, where we just like nobody remembers it, right? I completely forgot about it until this weekend. But
yeah, I don't think
it's gonna happen. Yeah. I think it's going.
I think EEE, like no one even knew about it. You couldn't even remember the name. Yeah,
I used to be more. I used to be very much on one side, thinking that this is going to change things forever. Blah blah blah. I do think, personally, I think the government did a good job getting liquidity in our market and having people have money in their hands so they can spend it. Hopefully people are using that. I think that's a big, major reason why we're seeing our economy leveling off. I don't know that we've seen the repercussions of that yet. I think there are going to be repercussions if we don't do it correctly, although I don't think that we had any other options.
Is wait until,
what's that?
Like, okay, let's say June 12th or whatever, they open up restaurants down here. And you want to go to your favorite place and you drive by and it's closed.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
There's probably people who worked at restaurants who either took other jobs, right? And now they're understaffed or they're not ready to go, or like the unemployment is better or whatever. And then there's people who just went out of business. I mean that industry. And speaking of gyms, I mean, fucking Hertz rental car went out of business. I mean, that's
bro. 100 years in the business. 100 years in business.
Yeah.
You think they'd be better capitalized? You know what I mean? It's like, where the fuck did your money go? But anyway,
like,
what's that?
I mean, I know there was a lot of like retail, clothing and things like that got smashed too. I mean, it's just like, what are you gonna do?
I think that part doesn't go away. I think e-commerce and like Amazonification things, I think people are just not going to go to like 12 Oaks Mall, I guess, is supposed to open up pretty soon. I don't know that I'm going to go to the mall. I don't even want to be in the mall. First of all, I never really like going to the mall. And now I'm used to just ordering stuff online. I've kind of gotten that habit. That part of the stuff, the things that make life easier and you don't have to do certain things, I think that's going away for sure. I don't think malls are anywhere near as effective. What is that? What does that say? I can't even read that. What does this tell? West Michigan consider homeschooling their kids after. Yeah, I mean, like, what about homeschooling, right? I think about that. Do I want my kids at a daycare where it's a petri dish, dude? My kids have hand, foot, and mouth. My daughter had RSV. They got every single fucking disease. And they come home and they're just all sick. There's kids snotting on each other, and and I think about that, and I'm like, where does that fit into everything, right? How does that work? Like, my wife's an educator. She can stay home and teach the kids, right? She doesn't want to. She wants to do stuff.
It's pretty odd, right? You can't open a gym. Are you going to be able to open a school that has, weight training?
If there's a second round, of this, if we start seeing numbers go up in the fall, schools aren't opening, bro. Parents won't even take them to school. They won't. Yeah.
Come July, if we're seeing numbers still going up or still in the same area as now in July, kids aren't going back to school. It's just not going to happen.
I think the day that schools open up again, that's when we feel the world is going to be like, okay, well, things are going back to normal. Because once kids are allowed to, like, I had my friends over the other day, and because they didn't have kids, I felt a lot safer. But if, let's say, I had a couple come over with their kids fucking shit on each other and like snot on each other all the time, and like they're the dirtiest things because they're not washing their hands, they're not taking precautions, they don't think like that, and But then the other side of it is, I don't want my kids growing up without other kids around them. That's going to screw them up too. So there's gonna be a lot of weird decisions that have to be made from a parental family level that I don't think people have even really realized yet. And we don't know what's going to happen, man. But I do know that I think our housing market through all this, go ahead.
What's funny too is they talk about a vaccine. How many people are going to actually do it?
There's a lot of people that don't want the vaccine, bro. There's a lot of anti-vaxxers all of a sudden that believe Donald Trump.
Too. I don't know if I would.
You don't think you will? Why?
Not that I'm an anti-vaxxer, but bro, they made this thing in record fucking speed. We're vetoing FDA approval or speeding it up. We're doing all this stuff. We rushed out this thing, and you want to inject it into my blood? I don't know, bro. I mean, that's kind of
right.
Scary,
let a million people walk around with it for a couple months, then or a year. Then maybe I'll take it. But to your point, there is dude, you're basically injecting a population with something and telling them it's going to be okay. If they make one molecular mistake which
we don't even really understand this disease. I mean, or whatever.
We don't. We don't know what it does.
This virus.
Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know.
Antibody test for COVID up to halftime. What does that say? Wrong. Yes.
Wrong.
Yeah, dude, because I got my COVID test. I came back negative. John Hill in our office took it. He came back positive. Me and him shared spit, I'm sure, at some point, right? And he chews tobacco in our office, and he's constantly spitting. He spread COVID through our whole office, and who knows? His could be wrong. Mine could be wrong. Who knows?
Right.
These tests aren't legit, right? It's bothersome to me.
Yeah, I mean,
don't tell me I can take a test and know if I had COVID and not tell me I had COVID.
If you can't tell, that you even had it, how are we gonna necessarily fight? I mean, granted, the world's top research is on it, but I mean, think how hard it is to make a decision on with the amount of people on one thing, right? Between politics and everything else, there is probably many, many, many different opinions on what's working, what's effective, what's not effective, what's true, what's wrong about this virus amongst the medical community that we don't even hear about, right? Behind closed doors. How are they going to come to a decision that is going to be administered to billions of people, right?
Right.
And it how long did it take to develop a polio vaccine or a smallpox?
Wouldn't you rather have a treatment that worked, right, Sal? Let's say there was personally, I would want to know that if I got it, that I could take this medicine, it'll go away. That is a much safer alternative than having a vaccine that's pumped into my blood that I don't know, who knows? If I just take
it might have to be like this, bro. And, this is kind of crazy to say because it's not as easily transmittable, but maybe now they're starting to come out with very crazy extensive treatments and preventative measures for AIDS after 25, 30 years, right? It might just be hey man, this is a thing that's out there, and if you get it, we can treat it, but there's no cure.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But that took 20 years to figure out, by the way. That took 20 years to figure out.
How crazy is that? AIDS, okay, you can prevent the spread of that by just not having unprotected sex, not fucking grabbing and swimming around in people's blood, right? But this, you can't really stop the transmission of you got to go touch shit. You got to go to the store. You got to
Think about this, dude. Think about this. Let's say people that had it, right? We don't know how this thing reacts. Let's say people that had it, all of a sudden this virus is smart enough to go into hibernation, and then comes back and it comes back and it causes your fingers to fall off. Right. We don't know that. You know what I mean? We just don't know enough about this virus to know what it's going to do. So anyways, we'll get off that because we can talk about this all day. My whole point is throughout all this, throughout 20% unemployment, throughout a stock market crash, throughout people losing their, jobs everywhere, with people not going anywhere, the housing market has increased in value because people want to buy houses. Especially now, I believe the future in their mind, if they don't own a house or they live in a place they don't love, they want to live in a place that they want to live and set up roots. And I think people will be living in their homes much longer than they used to. And I also think there'll be more houses in the suburbs going out there. The problem is we don't have enough houses. And builders, if they're smart, I'd start building instead of building $500,000 houses, which I get, there's a lot more profit in there. Yeah. Go out to the sticks somewhere. Build $200,000 houses, and they'll be gone tomorrow.
Well, think about
tomorrow.
The development of these places, right? Like, it was like roaring, World War II, like roaring 50s, right? Essentially, like, everyone's coming back from the war. My house was built, I think, in 1947, 1949.
The 50s and 60s. Yeah, the 50s and 60s.
Almost all the houses down my street, except for the ones recently demolished and, rebuilt, like some developers and builders like saw that demand and built up homes where, there was farmland before. So I think, it's getting to the point where like we kind of got to think the same way, because there's a lot more people than there is, houses.
Yeah, but problem builders aren't building affordable house. Like, look at the house that you're living in, Sal. Right, that house is how many square feet? 1,500.
I beg to differ, though. It just depends where you're at. I mean, there's a lot of developments going on, like in Lapeer, Oxford, Macomb. You can buy a Lombardo home for like $300,000, which is expensive, but it's not that expensive when you compare looking at a home and buying it in Royal Oak. Like, listen, a first-time home buyer is buying a $250,000 home potentially in Royal Oak. They are,
bro. I mean, if you can find a new build construction that costs only $300,000 after you put in sprinklers, decks, grass, landscaping, I know that there are houses right now that you can buy it as in the $250,000 range.
Listen, like, do you think all these houses built that we're living in now had that when they moved in? There's no decks. Like 5-6 people lived in a house. You know what I mean? Like in a 1,200 square foot house, they didn't have all the luxuries and amenities. And I think that's kind of something that we've grown accustomed to and expect, because maybe our parents' houses had it. But if you can buy and build a home for $280,000, $300,000 that's brand new. You might not have the deck. Well, I have a lot of friends who are buying homes that are new built, and they have to pour the patio. They got to do all this other stuff. They have to do the landscaping, but they got into it. And if that comes over time, just like all the rest of these houses, I mean, my house has an addition built on it. It's got a deck. It has landscaping. Wasn't built like that. People have to do that over time. And I think that's just kind of, hey, we were in a time, right, where people were kind of inheriting the, I would say, like luxuries or amenities that were built before them. But new homes often don't have that. They might, like if someone's like able to afford it all, but I think that a lot of people and a lot of builders are probably going to see less newer or younger buyers not optioning their houses out to the max in some of these communities and just getting in,
Yeah.
We couldn't buy in Royal Oak. We're going to build a house. We can buy it for $350,000 or we can buy it for, $305,000, right? And it's going to be base, but we'll add on to it over time.
Yeah.
I bet you'll see that.
All right. So I'm gonna use, actually, let's do Brad. Brad, we're going to do 3 questions on Brad because we've done Sal before. Ready, Brad? What? Can't hear you.
He's muted.
All right. So, you there? Can you say something, dude? Oh man, I wish I could. We should have done that a long time ago. We didn't even know. He might have been muted the whole fucking show, and we don't know it because he doesn't know what he's doing.
There he is.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, you're there.
Super weird. I don't know what happened.
Anyways, So 3 questions for you, Brad. Actually, both of you. I'm going to ask both of you. Okay. If you weren't living in your home, Sal or Brad, if you had to move from your home to a different location in Michigan, where would it be and why?
In Michigan?
Yeah. Sal, go ahead. Brad doesn't know how to think. Like if you didn't live in Royal Oak, would you move to Oxford? Where would you go? Would you go to another town area?
Somewhere on the water. I mean, it's one of the biggest amenities that we have, right? I think I would want to move, if money wasn't an option, right? I'd want to move
Grosse Pointe.
Grosse Pointe. I mean, it's just, to me, I love that area. I love, it's just, old school charm with, beautiful views. I like that.
Yeah. I'd move to Marquette.
Marquette?
Yeah. Yep. Back to the UP.
Yeah, I mean, if I didn't have to be close to work, right? If that was also not an option, I'd probably move to
Traverse City all day. All the Grand Rapids, Traverse City, somewhere. Yeah, I agree with that. I go live with Matt Ness, who's living his best fucking life. I'd be like moving. I'd be like, Ness, let me move into your garage, bro. Let me be like a pet. I'll be your pet Paul. That pet dog that they have lives the best life. I thanks, bud. I appreciate that. I clean up after myself and everything, right? Okay, let me ask you guys this. Do you think real estate agents we're going to see less people in the business, or do you think you're going to see more people coming into the business because they see an opportunity? Right? Like, let's say you're in a restaurant and you're looking for a job now. Do you go into real estate? Do you go into mortgages? Because that market's still doing well, right? We're doing okay. We're hiring personally. Like, do you see that happen?
I think there's going to be less agents in the industry because there's going to be opportunity, but it's going to get consumed by the experienced agents, and people aren't going to want to get into the industry because they're still going to be freaked out about going into people's homes and showing homes and going out. I think the experienced agents are going to just dominate and gain market share in the opportunity that's going to be there. I don't think as many new agents are going to show up. I
think if there are, right, I mean, there'll be more quote unquote buyer's agents than listing agents, because I think that let's say the solution to the problem of short supply, right, or low inventory is building. Typically, you're going to have like maybe one or two agents like control those subs, right? They're going to list them all. So yeah, you'll have buyer's agents maybe who come in, and I think the industry is going to change potentially too with commissions and things like that. But it's hard to say. I mean,
yeah.
It's good. It's
just
like,
to see. I think,
listen, just like supply and demand, right? The shorter the supply, the less demand there is for an agent, which inherently creates less transactions or less agents, right? So what are you going to do?
Yeah. Last question for you guys. If you could change one thing about the mortgage or home buying process, what would it be? I'll tell you.
Asset verification. I mean,
asset verification. What?
Well, listen, like, you can't fake your
money.
income.
No problem.
I think that's fair. You can't fake their income, right? Like, people have to be able to afford to buy it, right? But like, it's just sometimes it's such a joke, right? It's like, oh, you don't have that money, or you have money cash or whatever, right? Like, people are doing gifts, people are seasoning. Okay, well, I had all this cash. I'm going to put it in the bank, and then Freddie Mac's going to require a 30-day bank statement. As long as there's nothing within 30 days, you're fine. I mean, to me, that's kind of, all right, either make
it's a joke.
More strict. Yeah, it's just kind of like, it creates conditions that are understandably necessary to avoid money laundering and things like that, right? But ultimately, it creates a situation where everyone's trying to bend or break the rules or whatever, right? And it's kind of like, hey, they're going to get that money in that account one way or another. They have it, or they have the means to it. So why the fuck are you going to like put someone through the ringer for a 30-day bank statement to show that the money was there? I mean, it's all government shit, right? IRS and money laundering. But like, how many people are laundering money into houses for real?
Right.
Or using terrorist funded money? Come on.
Right. Brad, what about you?
The appraisal process. Make it quicker, make it easier, make it streamlined. I mean, no matter what, it's always going to be an opinion of value, but I mean, I think there's a lot of things broken with the appraisal process. And I think with the data that's out there, I think it could be streamlined and the appraisal.
I agree with that. One
of the first things ordered, was one of the last things to get back. And it's always the thing that like everyone's riding on pins and needles to see if it comes
right.
Back, right. So
Right. I mean, the whole deal hinges on that. You can solve for everything, but you can't solve for that a lot of times, right?
Right.
No, I think that. Yeah, I mean, the appraisal process is ultimately.
I'll tell you what I would change. The CD. Yeah, you do. So the CD process, the closing disclosure, how loans are described and communicated to actual borrowers. If I have to, like, I want them to get paperwork that actually explains their loan, because the closing disclosure, which we legally have to give to the clients, is confusing. It's confusing. I have. It's like, where is this coming from?
I think that consumers would probably agree with that.
Right.
I don't think it's that hard to explain. You know what I think is super flawed?
But why would you even have to fucking explain it? Because it should be all the numbers should be there. Like, why are they getting lumped together?
The whole reason the closing disclosure was implemented
to communicate with them,
to make it easier to understand and read on the consumer level, but they it made it harder.
You want to know what
making
really is
laws.
crazy though? That blows my mind is credit scoring. Like, okay, you can have 30 years of great credit, and then you have a $35 Macy's balance go past due, and it costs you
or a medical bill
tens of thousands or whatever, right? And I mean, there's so many lines of credit and so much shit like that where, you know, people are, oh man, like I didn't even know that was a thing. You know,
I think the credit companies are a racket. They're assholes. Not only are they assholes, when you get your credit pulled, they sell that information to other credit. Like let's say we pull somebody's credit as a mortgage company.
Yep.
They sell that information to other people. Now that person is getting 15 phone calls from other different lenders. That should be illegal.
I think it's also crazy that to use your credit, it costs you points. Like, hey,
yeah, fuck you. I should be able to get my credit pulled and use it.
Right.
What the fuck is that all about? Oh, you got your credit pulled, your credit down. Fuck off. Sorry.
Relax, Paul. You're
sorry.
going off the rails.
You're right.
But
you're right.
Yeah, like, you know, it's like, what's my credit score? You don't even know what your credit score is. So like, you can't even know what your options are. Right. Yeah. And the whole reason for that is because if people had free access to their credit, there'd be no reason for the credit bureaus. Right.
But they do, Sal. You go to Credit Karma and get your credit score on Credit Karma, Sal.
Why don't they just charge you to pull it, and it's, you know, usable anywhere? I mean, like.
Well, why can't I use my Credit Karma, Sal? My Credit Karma says I have 800.
I don't want to get on the fucking Credit Karma thing. I'm talking about the real deal of like, it's just absolutely.
But I want the audience to understand that Credit Karma is not the credit score that people use. That's what
I'm just saying in general. Like the fact that, you know, like it's just so funny. I talk to someone and they're like, dude, I can't get a house because of a $500, you know, medical collection, or I can get the house, but my rate's 1% higher, you know, or the PMI is nuts because I didn't make a Macy's bill last year.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, what the hell? I mean, how in the world do that many people have Macy's accounts? It's like every credit report I pull, there's a $35, $25.
Because they get you, bro. They get you good.
Yeah.
I mean, they're good at opening. Yeah.
I don't know.
I have one.
Think, you know, if I could change anything in this country, that would be it, because it's super
credit
score.
Up.
Yeah.
Last thing I'll leave you with, because we've kind of got over time. What about the social credit scores that China does? Like when you go get a coffee and you don't like that person, like you can rate them a lower rating and they have a social score. So there's people that walk around with a 2-star or a 4-star or 5-star, depending on your interaction with other people. Did you know this? Look at Brad's face. Brad's like blown away. So
I think that was
it's a social score. It was a Black Mirror episode, but they're actually doing it in China. So, like, let's say you go do something, Brad, and you don't interact with a person kindly. Well, they can score you like a Google review you, right? And your Google review would probably be very low in real life because people don't like you, right? So, like, you would not do well because you would go to a restaurant and that you'd be sat in the back because they know you got a 2-star when the 5 stars are in the front.
You're like a sim. You know, like hungry, happy, sad.
Yeah, like 5 stars get better treatment. They get all, you know, they get better restaurants. 2 stars get shitty restaurants.
Wow.
Yeah, Brad, you wouldn't like that. You feel like people would not score you well, huh?
No, it's just crazy to think about. I mean, think about
it. Interesting.
It's going to happen here. I guarantee it. I guarantee it.
You know, it's funny because it would tell you what people think. It would tell you what people think about you. You know, you might think you're like,
not really.
You might
not really.
If you got a lot of money, I mean, you could pay a bunch of people to give you a bunch of reviews, right?
Sure. I mean, there's that too, the manipulation, but like
it can be manipulated very easily.
But there's also a lot of
if you haven't seen the
Brad, I'll give you a 5-star if you give me a 5-star, right?
If you haven't seen the Black Mirror episode, you got to watch Black Mirror. It's on Netflix. And there's a specific episode where this girl wants to get a higher rating so she can go to this wedding. And by the time she gets to the wedding, because her ticket got whatever, boom, by the time she got the wedding, she had a 2-star and they wouldn't let her at the wedding and she snuck in. You got to watch it. It's actually really good. It's really good.
Oh, it's good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really good one. All right, guys, listen, we've gone over. Guys, I really appreciate you guys taking the time. Obviously, you guys are always on, but I'm very excited. I'm very excited to see that our market, our business, as we thought it would, is enduring really well. And I think housing is really going to be a staple of our economy going forward. Because if you look at every other part of our economy, it all fucking fell apart except our housing economy, our housing market, because people still wanted houses. So yeah, I'm really interested to see what happens in the fall. I think that's the next step. It's like what happened in the fall. I think what we're going to see through the summer is people are going to start opening up their doors, going outside more. You know, they're going to start feeling more comfortable. I'm very interested to see what this background does if there's another round of it. So, but anyways, anybody that's listening, please go to irepodcast.com, go to Stitcher, go to iTunes, all that stuff, the podcast app, and please rate us. The ratings really help us. If you do like our show, shoot us a comment, let people know about us.
Give us maybe they should have a host rating on there. Like,
oh, that'd be great. Yeah.
Like, you or Brad,
who's your favorite host?
Who's your favorite
well, you would
podcast character?
What's that?
Well, he kind of carries it. I mean, he deserves a higher score, but
I don't
people
think
might be like,
me,
this guy's a loose
just because I carried. Just because I carry it doesn't mean people like me. They probably like Brad the best because he just looks like he gets picked on. They're like, "Oh, poor Brad."
Man, come on.
I roll, man.
All right, guys.
All right, guys. All right, boys. All right, I'll see. What?
Everyone likes the fat jolly guy. Right?
Yeah, you're not fat.
All right,
all right.
No, you're not. You're big. You're big bone. See you guys later. See you next week. Bye.